The night my father told me to choose between $70,000 and my family, I chose the door. Not because I didn't love them, not because I wanted to hurt them, but because somewhere between childhood and that exact moment, I'd learned that love in the Marlowe house wasn't free. It came with receipts, invoices, and a payment plan I could never afford. My name is Evan Marlowe, and this is the story of how I walked away from everything I knew, carrying nothing but their darkest secret in my back pocket. The kitchen light flickered like it always did. Same yellow bulb. Same cracked ceiling. Same mahogany table where I'd eaten breakfast for 29 years. But tonight, everything felt different.
Wrong.
Like the walls knew what was coming before I did. Dad stood by the counter, gripping his coffee mug so hard his knuckles turned white. Mom sat frozen at the table, hands folded in her lap, like she was praying. And Gavin, my golden child older brother, slumped in his chair looking like a kicked dog, eyes anywhere but on me. 70,000, Dad said again. His voice cut through the silence like glass breaking. We need it now. I stared at him, blinked, waited for the punchline that never came. For what? I finally asked. Mom's voice came out soft, too soft. For your brother. It's complicated. I laughed. Not the funny kind. The kind that tastes bitter on your tongue. Complicated? You mean he gambled it away again? Dad slammed the mug down. Coffee splashed onto the counter. Watch your tone. You're asking me to clean up his mess. I shot back. You realize how insane that sounds? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. This family stands together in a crisis, Dad said, his jaw tight. Really? I felt something hot rise in my chest. When I couldn't pay my student loans, you told me to be a man. When I asked for help after Mom's surgery, you said figure it out. But Gavin screws up for the 100th time, and suddenly it's a family emergency. The silence that followed felt like drowning. Then Dad spoke, and his words dropped like stones. You either help or you're not part of this family anymore. I looked at Mom, waiting, hoping she'd say something. Anything. She wouldn't even meet my eyes. Her voice came out cold, flat. Your father's right. Pay up or leave. Something inside me cracked. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, like a door closing somewhere deep in my chest. I looked at each of them one last time. The people who raised me, shaped me, betrayed me. Then I guess I'm leaving. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. I walked out of that kitchen like I was walking through water, each step heavier than the last. But I didn't go straight to my car. Instead, I turned left down the hallway, past the family photos on the wall where I was always just slightly out of frame, past the living room where we'd pretended to be normal for so many years. I stopped in front of Dad's study, the room nobody was allowed to enter, the door he kept locked like it held nuclear codes. My hand found the spare key I discovered when I was 17, the one he thought he'd hidden so well. The lock clicked. The door opened, and inside that dark room, behind a false panel in his mahogany desk, I found exactly what I'd remembered from years ago. What I'd stumbled onto by accident when I was younger and too naive to understand what I was looking at. A black binder.
Thick.
Heavy. Labeled in neat handwriting. Stonefield Holdings. My hands shook as I opened it. Bank statements. Offshore accounts. False business names. Millions of dollars my father had siphoned away before he retired. Money that didn't exist on paper. Money the government had never seen. Their biggest secret. I heard footsteps upstairs. Dad's heavy walk. Moving toward the stairs. His voice echoed down. Evan, what are you doing down there? My heart hammered against my ribs. I closed the binder. Shoved it back, behind the panel. But my phone was already out, camera clicking, capturing page after page in the dim light. Nothing. I called back, my voice steadier than I felt. Just leaving. I slipped out of the study, locked the door behind me, and walked straight out the front entrance without looking back. The night air hit my face like cold water. I threw my bag in the car, started the engine, and drove. No destination. No plan. Just away. In my rearview mirror, the house I grew up in got smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. My phone buzzed. Gavin's name lit up the screen. I watched it ring.
Once. Twice. 3 times.
Then I let it go to voicemail. Because some doors, once you walk through them, you can never go back. And I just walked through mine. What would you do if your family demanded you choose between money and loyalty? Would you pay up, walk away, or do something else entirely? Drop your thoughts below. I was 12 the first time I realized love in my family had a price tag. Gavin stole $40 from Mom's purse. I watched him do it. Watched him slip the bills into his pocket while she was in the garden, humming some old song she'd forgotten the words to. When she noticed the money missing, she lined us both up in the living room. Her face was tight. Dad stood behind her like a shadow. "Who took it?" she asked. I looked at Gavin. He looked at the floor. "Gavin did," I said. Because that's what you do when you're 12 and still believe truth matters. Dad's hand came down hard on the back of my head. "Not Gavin's."
"Mine."
"Don't lie about your brother," he said. "Gavin got ice cream that night. I got sent to bed without dinner." That's when I learned the rules. Gavin could break things. I had to fix them. Gavin could fail. I had to stay quiet. The flickering streetlights outside my car pull me back to now. To the present. To the black binder of photos hidden in my laptop bag on the passenger seat. I'd been driving for 2 hours. No destination. Just highway lines disappearing under my tires like the years I'd wasted trying to earn their approval.
My phone buzzed again.
Mom this time. Then Dad. Then Gavin. Again and again until I finally powered it off completely. The silence felt like breathing for the first time. I pulled into a motel parking lot somewhere outside the city. The kind of place with flickering neon signs and doors that don't close right. Paid cash. Didn't give my real name. Inside a room, I sat on the edge of the bed and opened my laptop. The photos loaded one by one. Bank statements. Account numbers. Transactions that went back 15 years. Millions moving through companies that didn't exist, registered in countries I'd never heard of. My father, the man who lectured me about responsibility, about earning your way, about standing on your own, had built an empire on lies. Stonefield Holdings wasn't a retirement fund. It was theft dressed up in a suit and tie. My hands shook as I scrolled through the images. Part of me wanted to delete everything. Pretend I'd never seen it. Go back to being the good son who kept his mouth shut. But I couldn't unknow what I knew now. A knock on the door made my heart stop. 3 sharp raps. Then a voice. "Evan? I know you're in there."
"Gavin."
I sat frozen, laptop screen glowing in the dark. How did he find me? How did he even know where to look? Another knock. Harder this time. "Come on, man. Just talk to me." I closed the laptop. Walked to the door, but didn't open it. "Go home, Gavin." "I can't." His voice cracked. "They're losing it. Dad's tearing the house apart looking for something. Says you took it." My jaw tightened. I didn't take anything. "Then why'd you go in his study?" Silence hung between us like smoke. "Open the door," Gavin said quietly. "Please." I almost did. Almost fell back into the old pattern of cleaning up his messes, protecting him, being the brother he never was to me. Then I remembered his face tonight. How he'd sat there silent while they demanded $70,000 from me. How he hadn't said a word when they told me to leave. "Go home," I repeated. "Evan. Tell Dad if he wants what's his, he can come get it himself." I heard Gavin's breath catch. Then footsteps. Moving away. A car engine starting. I waited until the sound faded before I moved again. Then I packed everything, wiped down the room, and left through the back exit. Because if Gavin could find me once, Dad would find me twice. And I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and doing what's right? How did you handle it? The highway stretched out like a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. 3 days later, I was in a different city. Different name on the motel register. Different everything. I'd pulled money from an ATM, bought a burner phone, and started looking for apartments I could rent with cash. Running felt like cowardice, but staying felt like surrender. I found a studio above a laundromat on the east side. The landlord didn't ask questions. I didn't offer answers. 2 months rent up front and the place was mine. It smelled like detergent and old wood, but the door had a good lock. That's all I cared about. I set up my laptop on the kitchen counter and stared at those photos again. The evidence. The proof. The nuclear bomb that could destroy everything my parents had built. But using it meant destroying them too. And despite everything, some stupid part of me still hesitated. My new burner phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then curiosity won. Yeah. Evan Marlowe? A woman's voice. Professional. Careful. My stomach dropped. Who's asking? My name is Claire Donovan. I'm an investigative journalist. I've been looking into your father's business dealings, and I think you might be able to help me. I hung up immediately. My hands were shaking again. How did she get this number? How did she even know who I was? The phone rang again. Same number. This time I answered but didn't speak. I'm not trying to hurt you, Claire said quickly. I'm trying to stop your father from hurting other people. There are families he's destroyed. Pensions he's stolen. People who lost everything because of Stonefield Holdings. My chest went tight. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. And I think part of you wants to do the right thing. That's why you left, isn't it? That's why you took those documents. I closed my eyes. I didn't take anything. Then why is your father offering a $50,000 reward for anyone who knows where you are? The air left my lungs. He's desperate, Evan. Which means he knows you have something that can hurt him. And desperate people do dangerous things. I hung up again. But this time, I didn't delete the number. Because she was right about one thing. My father was dangerous when cornered. And I just backed him into the tightest corner of his life. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside made me jump. Every car that passed felt like it was slowing down, checking windows, looking for me. By morning, I'd made a decision. I pulled out the photos. Selected 3 of the worst ones. Transactions to shell companies, falsified reports, money laundering through fake charities. Then I created an anonymous email account and sent them to Claire Donovan with a simple message. You're right. But I need guarantees before I give you more. Her response came in less than 5 minutes. Name your terms. I stared at the screen. Thought about Gavin.
About Mom.
About the life they'd lived on stolen money. Then I typed protection, anonymity, and a promise you'll expose the truth, not just destroy my family for a story. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared.
Appeared again.
Finally, deal. Let's meet. I closed the laptop and whispered to the empty room. No going back now. If you had proof someone you loved was hurting innocent people, would you expose them? Or would you stay silent to protect your family? 6 years is a long time to be a ghost. I changed my name legally. Moved 3 more times. Built a life from scratch like I was assembling furniture without instructions. Frustrating, exhausting, but eventually something stable took shape. I started small. Freelance marketing gigs. Then a client. Then another. Eventually, I had enough work to rent an actual office. Hired 2 people. Then 5. By the time I turned 35, I owned a small digital marketing firm called Apex Media Group. Nothing fancy. Nothing like Dad's empire. But it was mine. Built on work I actually did, money I actually earned. No lies. No shortcuts. No offshore accounts. Claire Donovan became something unexpected. A friend. After I'd given her the evidence years ago, she'd kept her word. Published the story carefully, protected my identity, focused on the victims instead of the spectacle. The investigation into Harold Marlowe had started quietly. He'd managed to dodge it at first, hiring expensive lawyers, calling in favors, making threats. But truth has a way of surfacing.
Slowly.
Inevitably. You ever think about calling them? Claire asked one afternoon. We were having coffee at a cafe near my office. She'd driven up to check on a follow-up story. I stirred my drink without drinking it.
No.
Liar. I smiled despite myself.
Fine.
Every holiday. Every birthday. Every time I see a father and son at a restaurant. I looked up. But thinking about it and doing it are different things. You know they tried to find you, right? The first 2 years after you left. My stomach tightened. I know. Your mom hired 3 private investigators. Your dad filed missing persons reports. Gavin showed up at your old apartment 7 times. I didn't ask you to tell me this. Claire leaned forward. I'm telling you because one day you might regret not giving them a chance to apologize. Not for them, for you. I met her eyes. They had chances. They chose money over me. That's not something you apologize away. She nodded slowly. Didn't push. That evening, back at my apartment, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name typed on the front. My hands went cold. Inside was a newspaper clipping, dated 1 week ago. The headline read, Harold Marlowe's former company under federal audit. Fraud investigation intensifies. Below it, someone had written in red ink, they're getting closer. Thought you'd want to know. No signature. I stared at it for a long time. Then I pulled out my phone and did something I hadn't done in years. I Googled my father's name. Pages of results flooded the screen. Articles, court documents, testimonies from former employees. The investigation had grown bigger than I'd imagined. They weren't just looking at Stonefield anymore. They were unraveling his entire career. And somewhere in all that evidence was the information I'd given Claire. The photos I'd taken that night in his study. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. This time, when I answered, I recognized the voice immediately. Evan. My mother's voice cracked like old glass. It's me. Please don't hang up. My heart hammered. 6 years of silence, and now this. How did you get this number? Does it matter? She sounded exhausted. Afraid. Your father's in trouble. Real trouble. The investigation, they think he embezzled millions. They're going to take everything. I said nothing. Evan, if you know anything, if you saw anything that night you left, please. We just need to explain our side. We need your help. The word help tasted like acid. Help, I repeated slowly. That's interesting. I remember another time you needed something from me. $70,000, wasn't it? Evan, please. You told me to pay up or leave the family. So I left. We didn't mean. Yes, you did. My voice came out colder than I expected. You meant every word. And now you're learning what that costs. I could hear her crying.
Soft.
Broken. The sound I'd imagined hearing 6 years ago when I drove away. But now it just felt empty. Mom, I said quietly, you made your choice. Now live with it. I hung up before she could respond. Then I sat in the dark, staring at that newspaper clipping, wondering if doing the right thing was supposed to feel this heavy. When family comes back after years of silence asking for help, do you owe them anything? Or is some damage permanent? The lawyer's office smelled like leather and old books. Claire sat beside me, her notebook open but empty. She hadn't said much since I called her last night. Just listened while I told her about Mom's call. About the fear in her voice. About the part of me that almost wanted to help them. You don't have to do this, Claire said quietly as we waited. Yeah, I said. I do. The door opened. A woman in her 50s walked in, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. Margaret Chun, one of the best lawyers in the state, according to Claire's research. Mr. Marlowe, she said, shaking my hand firmly. Claire tells me you have information regarding the Stonefield Holdings investigation. I nodded, pulled out my laptop, opened the folder I'd kept hidden for 6 years. This is everything, I said. Bank statements, offshore accounts, falsified business records. It goes back 15 years. Margaret's expression didn't change as she scrolled through the files, but her jaw tightened just slightly. This is extensive, she said finally. Where did you get it? My father's study, the night I left home. And you've had this for 6 years? Yes. Why now? Why not come forward sooner? I looked at Claire, then back at Margaret, because I kept hoping maybe I was wrong. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe. I trailed off. maybe they'd change. And now they want my help covering it up. And I can't let that happen. Margaret leaned back in her chair, studied me. Once you hand this over, there's no taking it back. Your father will face federal charges. Your mother could be implicated. Your brother too, depending on what they find. This will destroy them. My throat felt tight. I know. And you're prepared for that? I thought about the families Claire had told me about. People who'd lost their life savings. Retirees who'd trusted Harold Marlowe with their pensions. Kids who couldn't go to college because their parents' money had vanished into offshore accounts. They destroyed other people first, I said quietly. I'm just making sure the truth comes out. Margaret nodded once. Then let's do this right. She took the laptop, made copies of everything, explained how it would work, turning over evidence through proper legal channels, ensuring my anonymity, working with federal investigators who'd been building the case for months. This will be the final piece they need, she said. The prosecution has been struggling to trace the money. These documents prove everything. When we left her office 2 hours later, I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. Claire walked me to my car. You okay? Ask me in a month.
She smiled sadly.
For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. Then why does it feel so wrong? She didn't have an answer for that. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Mom's voice on the phone. About Gavin showing up at that motel 6 years ago. About Dad's hand on my head when I was 12, telling me not to lie about my brother. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. A news alert. Breaking. Federal authorities execute search warrant at Harold Marlowe residence. It had started. I stared at the screen, watching the story update in real time. Photos of my childhood home, surrounded by federal agents. Dad being let out in handcuffs. Mom covering her face from cameras. My hands were shaking. Then another notification. A text from an unknown number. You did this. You destroyed us. I hope you're happy.
Gavin.
I typed back before I could stop myself. You destroyed yourselves. I just stopped you from destroying anyone else. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. No response came. I set the phone down and walked to the window. The city lights stretched out below, indifferent and eternal. Justice doesn't need an audience, I whispered to my reflection. But somewhere deep down, a voice asked, then why does it feel like you're the one being judged? Is turning in family for their crimes justice or betrayal? Where's the line between doing what's right and destroying the people who raised you? The hardest choices don't announce themselves with trumpets and drama. They show up quiet. At 3 in the morning when you can't sleep. In the mirror when you're brushing your teeth. In the space between one breath and the next. That's where I was now. Standing at the edge of something I couldn't take back. 3 days after the news broke, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Reporters. Lawyers. People I hadn't talked to in years suddenly wanting statements, interviews, my side of the story. I ignored them all. Claire was the only one I answered. She called around noon, her voice careful. You seeing the coverage? Trying not to. It's everywhere, Evan. Front page of every major paper. They're calling it the biggest financial fraud case in a decade. I closed my eyes, leaned against the kitchen counter. How bad? For your father? Federal charges. Money laundering. Tax evasion.
Fraud.
They're estimating 40 years minimum. My stomach turned. And Mom? They're investigating her involvement. So far, nothing concrete. But if they prove she knew about Stonefield. Claire trailed off. Gavin had texted me twice more since that first message. Both times just, call me. I hadn't. Because what would I say? Sorry, I torpedoed our family? Sorry Dad's going to prison? Sorry I chose truth over blood? None of it would matter anyway. There's something else, Claire said, her tone shifting. The prosecution wants to meet with you. Officially.
Why?
They have everything they need. They want you to testify. Put a face to the evidence. Explain how you found it, why you kept it, why you're coming forward now. My chest tightened.
No.
That wasn't the deal. Margaret said I could stay anonymous. You can. But they're saying your testimony, would make the case airtight. Without it, your father's lawyers might find a way to muddy the waters, create reasonable doubt. I press my palm against my forehead. So either I stay hidden and risk him walking free, or I stand up in court and destroy him myself. Pretty much. I wanted to scream, wanted to throw my phone across the room, wanted to go back 6 years and never walk into that study. But I couldn't. I need time to think, I said. They need an answer by Friday. Then they'll get one Friday. I hung up before she could respond. That night, I pulled out the old black binder from my closet. The original. The one I'd found in Dad's study. I'd kept it all these years, hidden in a storage unit I paid cash for, just in case. Just in case of what? I'd never been sure. Until now. I flipped through the pages slowly. Saw Dad's handwriting in the margins. Notes about transfers. Reminders about which accounts to check. Instructions for moving money without leaving traces. It was meticulous. Careful. The work of someone who knew exactly what they were doing was wrong, and did it anyway. My phone buzzed. Another text from Gavin. This time it said, "He's asking for you." My hands froze. Who? Dad. He's in holding. He wants to see you before arraignment. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed. Why would I do that? The response came fast. Because he's our father. And because you owe him that much. I almost laughed. Almost wrote back something cruel about owing him nothing after everything he'd done. But instead, I just said, tell him I'll think about it. Then I turned off my phone, sat in the dark, and wondered if the ghost of the son I used to be was proud or ashamed of the man I'd become. Margaret called the next morning. The prosecutor's office is pushing hard for your testimony. They're offering full immunity and witness protection if needed. I don't need protection. You might. Your father's associates aren't all in custody yet. Some of them have a lot to lose if this case goes through. A chill ran down my spine. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying powerful people don't go down quietly. And right now, you're the star witness in a case that could destroy them. I rubbed my temples. What do you think I should do? Honestly?
Testify.
Not for them. For yourself. Because if you don't, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering if staying silent was the right choice. I thought about the families who'd lost everything. About the retirees Claire had interviewed, people who couldn't afford medicine now because their pensions had vanished. I thought about Dad's face the night he told me to pay or leave. Then I thought about the 12-year-old kid who got hit for telling the truth. Set up the meeting, I said quietly. I'll testify. Margaret exhaled. Okay. I'll make the arrangements. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote a letter I'd never send. Dear Dad, you taught me everything I know about what not to be. And I guess I should thank you for that. I'm testifying against you. Not because I hate you, but because staying silent would make me just like you. And I'd rather lose my family than lose myself. Evan. I folded it. Put it in my desk drawer next to Mom's future letters and the old black binder. Then I whispered to the empty room. No turning back now. Would you testify against your own father to protect innocent people? Or is family loyalty more important than justice? The world ended not with a bang, but with a breaking news alert. I was in a client meeting when my phone lit up. Then Claire's. Then everyone's in the room. Harold Marlowe arrested, federal fraud charges filed. The story spread like wildfire. Within an hour, every major network was covering it. Photos of Dad in handcuffs. Video of federal agents carrying boxes out of the house. Reporters camped outside the gates, asking neighbors for comments. My client looked at me strangely. Marlowe. That's not a common name. Any relation? I kept my face neutral. Distant. The lie came easy now. By evening, the full scope was public. $30 million. 14 offshore accounts. 47 victims identified so far. The prosecution was calling it one of the most elaborate financial schemes they'd seen in years. And somewhere buried in the court documents, protected by sealed evidence and anonymous sourcing, was my name. I sat in my apartment watching the coverage, with the sound off. Saw Mom being led to a car, her face pale and drawn. Saw Gavin shouting at reporters, his suit rumpled, his eyes wild. Saw Dad, smaller somehow, older, staring at the cameras with an expression I'd never seen before.
Fear. My phone rang. Claire.
You watching? She asked.
Yeah.
How you holding up? I don't know yet. She was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, the victims are grateful. I've been getting calls all day. People crying, saying they finally might get some of their money back. That should have made me feel better. Should have made this easier. It didn't. Another call came through. Unknown number. I ignored it. Then a text from Gavin. You happy now? You destroyed everything. I stared at it. Started typing a response. Deleted it. Tried again. Finally settled on. I didn't destroy anything. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already broken. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. He's going to prison because of you. He's going to prison because of him, I wrote back. I just made sure he couldn't take anyone else down with him. No response came. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails, dozens of texts. The story had exploded overnight. National coverage, financial networks, even international papers picking it up. The Marlowe scandal, they were calling it. I made coffee with shaking hands. Checked my email. Found one from Margaret. Arraignment is set for Monday. Prosecution is confident. Your testimony is scheduled for preliminary hearings next month.
Stay low until then.
Stay low.
Right.
Like I wasn't already invisible. I deleted social media apps from my phone. Stopped checking news sites. Tried to focus on work, on clients, on anything that wasn't the wreckage of my family playing out in real time. But it was everywhere. Coffee shops. Radio. Conversations I'd overhear on the street. Did you hear about that Marlowe guy? Stole millions from his own clients. I heard his son turned him in. Really? Man, that takes guts. Or stupidity, I thought. Depending on who you asked. Friday evening, Claire showed up at my apartment with takeout and wine. You look terrible, she said, pushing past me. Thanks. When's the last time you slept? What day is it? She gave me a look, set the food on the counter, poured 2 glasses. You need to talk about this. I'm fine. Liar. I took the wine, drank half of it in one go. What do you want me to say? That I feel guilty? That I wish I'd stayed silent? That part of me still wants to call Mom back and tell her I'm sorry? Do you? I looked at her. Every single day. Claire's expression softened. That means you're human. Doesn't mean you did the wrong thing. Then, why does it feel like I did? Because you're grieving. You lost your family. That's allowed. I set down the glass. I didn't lose them. I destroyed them.
No.
They destroyed themselves. You just refused to help them hide it. I wanted to believe her. Wanted to feel righteous and certain. But all I felt was tired. My phone buzzed. Another text. This time from an unknown number. You took everything from us. We'll take everything from you. My blood went cold. I showed it to Claire. Her face went pale. We need to call Margaret.
Now.
It's probably just Gavin being dramatic. Or it's someone from your father's network making a threat. She grabbed her phone. This isn't a joke, Evan. Margaret answered on the second ring. After I read her the message, she went quiet. I'm calling the prosecutor's office, she said. You need protection. Tonight. I'm not going into witness protection over one text. That's not your call anymore. She hung up. 2 hours later, 2 federal marshals were at my door explaining security protocols. I sat on my couch listening to them talk about safe houses and surveillance and threat assessments, and all I could think was, this is my life now. Looking over my shoulder. Afraid of my own family. Justice, I was learning, didn't come with a happy ending. It just came with consequences. When doing the right thing puts your life in danger, is it still worth it? Or is some truth too expensive to tell? The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Plain white envelope. Handwritten address. No return label. The marshals checked it first, protocol now, before handing it to me. Inside was a single piece of paper. My mother's handwriting. Evan, we lost everything. The house, the cars, the accounts. Your father's health is failing. The lawyers say he could die in prison. I know you had something to do with this. Maybe all of it. I won't ask you to admit it. I won't ask you to apologize. I just want you to know that I understand now. What we asked of you that night. What we'd been asking your whole life. We made you choose between truth and family. And when you chose truth, we called you a traitor. But maybe you were just the only honest one among us. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm just telling you that I finally see what we were. What I was. And I'm sorry.
Mom.
I read it 3 times. Then folded it carefully and placed it in my desk drawer next to the black binder and the letter I'd written to Dad. Evidence of a family that used to exist.
Claire called that afternoon.
You see the settlement news?
No.
Prosecution cut a deal. Your father pleaded guilty to 12 counts. 42 years. No parole. My chest tightened. And Mom? No charges. They couldn't prove she knew about the accounts. She's free.
Free.
What a strange word for someone who'd lost everything. Gavin? I asked. Cooperating witness. He's testifying against some of your father's business partners in exchange for immunity.
Of course he was. Golden child to the end.
How do you feel? Claire asked softly. I don't know. That's fair. After we hung up, I sat in my office staring at nothing. 42 years. Dad was 68. He'd die in prison. Because of documents I'd photographed. Evidence I'd provided. Truth I'd refused to bury. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Vivian. I know you got my letter. I'm not asking you to respond. I just wanted you to know I meant every word. Also, your father wants to see you. Before they transfer him. He won't say why.
Just that he needs to tell you something.
No pressure. But if there's any part of you that still cares, he's at county detention. Visiting hours end at 4. I looked at the clock. 2:47 p.m. I could make it if I left now. Every logical part of my brain screamed, not to go. To let him rot.
To move on.
But something deeper, something I didn't have words for, made me grab my keys. The detention center smelled like disinfectant and desperation. Concrete walls. Fluorescent lights. Guards with bored expressions processing visitors. I gave my name. Showed ID. Got scanned. Searched, cleared. They led me to a room divided by plexiglass.
Phones on both sides for talking.
Then they brought him in. I almost didn't recognize him. Dad had always been big, tall, broad-shouldered, commanding. The kind of man who filled every room he entered. This person was smaller, thinner. His orange jumpsuit hung loose. His hair had gone completely gray. He sat down slowly.
Picked up the phone.
Waited for me to do the same. We stared at each other through the glass. You came, he said finally. His voice sounded hollow. I almost didn't. He nodded. I wouldn't have either. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Your mother said you wanted to tell me something, I said. Dad's jaw worked. His eyes, the same blue as mine, looked tired, defeated. I wanted to say you were right. I blinked. What? That night. When we asked you to pay for Gavin's mess. When we told you to choose. He looked down at his hands. You were right to leave. My throat went tight. I spent my whole life thinking money was power. That control was love. That family meant. He trailed off. I don't know what I thought it meant, but I was wrong. You're apologizing now? After everything?
No.
He looked up. Met my eyes. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm just telling you the truth. Because you were always the one who cared about truth.
I didn't know what to say.
What did you take? He asked quietly. That night you left. I hesitated. Then decided he deserved honesty. Proof. Of Stonefield. Of everything you'd done. He closed his eyes. A faint smile crossed his face. Almost proud. Good, he whispered. Keep it. Why? Because someone in this family should know what we really were. And someone should make sure we never happen again. He leaned closer to the glass. Don't be like me, Evan. Don't let money turn you into something hollow. The guard called time.
Dad stood slowly,
Put his hand against the glass. After a long moment, I did the same. Our palms separated by barriers neither of us could cross anymore. Then he turned and walked away. And I knew, somehow, that was the last time I'd ever see him. If your worst enemy apologized, would it change anything? Or is some damage beyond repair? My father died on a Thursday. Heart attack.
Quick, they said.
He didn't suffer. Mom called to tell me. Her voice was flat, empty, like she'd used up all her emotions and had nothing left. Funeral Saturday, she said. You don't have to come. I went anyway. The service was small. A handful of distant relatives. A few former colleagues who hadn't abandoned ship. Claire came with me, sat in the back, didn't say a word. Gavin was there. We didn't speak. Just nodded at each other across the aisle like strangers who happened to know the same dead man. Mom looked older, worn down. She wore black and sunglasses even though we were indoors. The priest said generic things about redemption and forgiveness. Didn't mention the fraud. Didn't mention the lives Dad had destroyed. Just talked about a man nobody in that room actually knew. When it ended, I stayed while everyone else filtered out. Stood in front of the closed casket and tried to feel something other than numb. I'm not sorry, I whispered.
For what I did.
For choosing truth. For walking away. The casket didn't answer. But I wish. I stopped. Started again. I wish you'd been different. I wish we'd been different. Still nothing. I turned to leave. Found Mom standing behind me. He loved you, she said quietly. In his way. I know. Do you forgive him? I thought about that for a long time. I don't know. But I'm trying to forgive myself. She nodded. Reached out like she might hug me. Then stopped. Let her hand drop. Take care of yourself, Evan. You too, Mom. Then I walked out of that church and into the sunlight, feeling lighter than I had in years. Claire drove me home. We didn't talk much.
Didn't need to.
What now? She asked when we pulled up to my building. I looked up at my apartment. My office. My life I'd built from nothing. Now I keep going, I said. That's all anyone can do, right? She smiled.
Yeah.
That's all. That night, I opened my laptop and started writing. Not for a client. Not for work. Just for me. I wrote about the night I left. About the black binder. About choosing truth when love came with conditions. I wrote until my hands cramped. Until my eyes burned. Until the sun came up and the words finally ran out. Then I saved the document. Titled it simply, What Family Cost Me. And I knew someday, maybe, it would help someone else choose themselves when everyone told them not to. 3 months later, I launched something new. Used part of my company's profits to start a foundation. The Marlowe Truth Fund. It helped victims of financial fraud. Provided legal support. Connected people with resources. Gave them a voice when powerful people tried to silence them. Ironic, maybe. Using my father's name to undo his damage. But it felt right.
Claire wrote a feature about it.
The article went viral. Donations poured in. People reached out sharing their own stories of betrayal and choosing truth. I hired 2 full-time staff. Then 5. Then 10. The foundation grew bigger than I'd imagined. And somewhere in all that work, I found something unexpected.
Peace.
Not happiness. Not closure. Just peace. One afternoon, a letter arrived at the foundation office. Handwritten. From a woman in Ohio whose retirement Dad had stolen. Thank you for giving me hope that justice still exists. Thank you for choosing truth when it cost you everything. You saved my life. I pinned it to my office wall. Started collecting others like it. Reminders that doing the right thing, even when it destroys you, still matters. Claire visited that evening. Saw the wall of letters. Smiled. You did good, she said. We did good. She handed me an envelope. One more thing. This came for you. Inside was a note. Simple. Anonymous. Mr. Marlowe, I was one of your father's victims. Lost everything. Was ready to give up. Your foundation helped me fight back. I won my case. Got my money back. Starting over at 63. I'll never meet you. But I want you to know, you're not your father's son. You're something better. You're the man he should have been. I read it twice, then folded it carefully and added it to the wall. Yeah, I whispered. We did good. Can you truly break free from your family's mistakes? Or do we carry them forever? 6 years after I walked away. 2 years after my father died. 1 year after the foundation launched. I stood in my office looking at that wall of letters and thought about silence. How I'd spent years running from noise. From accusations. From the weight of a name I never asked for. But somewhere along the way, the silence stopped being emptiness. It became something else. Strength.
Clarity. Peace.
My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. Turn on Channel 7.
Now.
I grabbed the remote. Flipped to the news. A reporter stood outside a courthouse. Behind her, people held signs. Justice for fraud victims. The Marlowe Fund saved my life. The headline scrolling across the bottom read, Anonymous whistleblower in Marlowe case finally revealed, Foundation founder Evan Marlowe was source all along. My stomach dropped. The reporter continued. Sources confirm that Evan Marlowe, son of convicted fraudster Harold Marlowe, provided the key evidence that brought down his father's empire. He's remained anonymous until now, quietly working to help victims through his nonprofit foundation. My phone exploded.
Calls.
Texts. Emails. Reporters requesting interviews. I turned off the TV. Sat in the quiet. Then I started laughing. Not because it was funny. Because after all this time hiding, the truth had found me anyway. Claire called. You okay?
Yeah.
Actually, I am. Media's going crazy. Everyone wants to talk to you. Let them. I'm done hiding. That weekend, I gave one interview. Just one. To a small podcast about ethics and family. The host asked the question everyone wanted answered. Do you regret turning in your father? I thought about it. Really thought. No. I said finally. I regret that I had to. I regret that he made choices that forced me to choose between family and truth. But I don't regret choosing truth. Even though it cost you everything? It didn't cost me everything. It cost me people who loved me conditionally. And it gave me something more valuable, the ability to look at myself in the mirror. The interview went viral. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. Some called me a hero. Others called me a traitor. Most just called me human. I stopped reading them after a while. Because their opinions didn't matter anymore. I knew who I was. The foundation kept growing. We helped hundreds of families. Recovered millions. Changed laws. And every time someone thanked me, I thought about that night in my father's study. About the black binder. About walking away with nothing but truth in my pocket. It had been enough. One evening, exactly 7 years after I left, I received a package. No return address. Inside was a photo. Old. Faded. Me and Dad when I was maybe 5. He was pushing me on a swing. Both of us smiling. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, before everything got complicated. Love, Mom. I stared at it for a long time. Then I put it in a frame and set it on my desk. Not as forgiveness. Not as forgetting. Just as proof that something good existed once. Before the lies. Before the money. Before everything fell apart. That night, I updated the foundation's website. Added a new section. Share your story. Because I realized that's what I'd been doing all along. Turning pain into purpose. Silence into strength. Betrayal into something that might help someone else survive their own impossible choice. My phone buzzed. A notification. Someone had just shared their story on the site. I had to choose between protecting my family's secrets and protecting myself. I chose myself. Thank you for showing me that was okay. I smiled. Typed back. Thank you for being brave. Then I looked out my window at the city lights stretching into darkness and thought about a question someone had asked me once. Can you break free from your family's mistakes? And I finally had an answer. Not completely. Not ever. But you can choose not to repeat them. You can choose truth when everyone wants lies. You can choose silence when noise would be easier. You can choose yourself when everyone tells you family comes first. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, walked to my car, passed a newsstand on the corner. A headline caught my eye: anonymous source key to Marlowe case still unknown. I smiled faintly, kept walking, because some truths don't need to be shouted. They just need to exist. And sometimes, the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. Family.
Truth.
Justice. When you're forced to choose, what would you pick? Share your story in the comments. Your truth might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because every week, we share real stories about impossible choices, finding strength in silence, and learning that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. Drop a comment telling us, have you ever had to choose between loyalty and truth? We read every single one. Your story matters. And who knows, it might inspire our next video. Thanks for being part of this family. The real kind. The kind that shows up, supports each other, and believes truth is worth fighting for. See you in the next story. Until then, choose yourself. You're worth it.